Okay, so here we are in October, which means we need to build our new directory structure. And really, I was thinking about this, having like my own experience and watching some other folks. It's really time we kind of start over. So, first thing is I want you to build your October directory. And here's the key: only bring over the code that you understand. Okay, so there's two things in what I mean in this, and I'll talk about the rest of it. But so when I set mine up, and I want you to do the same, only bring over. Well, let's just look at it real quick so we can just chat about it. So in my October directory in my app, now the homework will stay the same. There's no difference. But when you're looking at bringing over your my app, I want you to strip away everything else except the app itself. So any other JavaScript, any other stories, any other color, anything else, just one index file, and then the structure that we've talked about. And the other thing when you're doing this, and I recommend this highly, is you actually go through and look at what your code's doing. And this is the next part. So let me come back here, right? So one of the things that I've noticed, and even with me that this is true, is that you might want to start over with your layout, and now is a good time to do it. And if you want to start over, because I've talked about this with at least two people now, if you want to come up with a different topic, and even if you wanted to change from an app to a website, that's cool too. Now's the time to do that. So I want to show you a few resources I've found for using CSS layout. One I implemented today in the blog that I'm going to show you next, but it's this one, which is called Flexbox in 5 minutes. And I give you the link here, and what I really liked about this is that it really gave you the ability to look at all the different flex parameters and then add items into not sure why it's not, maybe my page is not big enough. But what it will do when it does work, it will basically add those in here, give you the CSS for what that is, so that you can play with Flexbox a little more. Because here's the deal, this is just true in any kind of, when you're developing something, you can only make your vision come true when you can really utilize and change whatever it is you're working with from a design, and then of course from a programming standpoint. So the more you understand how that layout's working, the better it will be. I'm just going to see something real quick. Can I do it here? Oh yeah, so I just had to get it a little bigger. So what you can do here is add a couple of items, divs, and then it shows you the content for doing that. So inside of the existing Flex design, if you're using that, then you can see how to add particular Flex items within a section. So that's kind of nice to do that. The other thing I will tell you that I think is really good also to look at, and I was playing with this, is something called Webflow. And Webflow is really cool. Let's see, I think I already logged in, tested out. Oh, they still make it. You still have to sign up for this. But there is some amazing video out there and relatively short for how to, this basically is your CSS layout tool that is awesome. So but here's, coming back here, what I want you to do is I want you to own this, right? So I've said this before, but I really don't feel like it's happened. And so, again, you may want to start over. And I showed you the resources. So here's the key to this work, is that you need to be able to describe how your site is rendered from an HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. And if you can't do that, then you need to note the code that you will commit to understanding or remove it, okay? Because that's really the important part of this class, is understanding how to do that. So let me just come back once more to here and just say, I want you to build this October directory. I want you to only bring over the stuff directly related to your app. So any of the other stuff we had you do along the way, only your app should come over, okay? And then in there, either change your layout or commit to fully understanding how to utilize that layout so that you can implement your own vision of what your program is. Okay, many of you are lacking content, and I've said a couple times about adding content, so you need to start doing that. So now so just FYI. Okay, so the second part of this is I also want you to implement at least one object that encapsulates a content area. And then, and actually, I actually kind of changed this from the time I wrote it up. So let me actually show it to you, and then I'll change the write up. So I went back to the blog idea. So let me show you. So I ended up redoing mine, and playing a lot with the way some of the look of it was, because as you know, I spend a lot of time just thinking about it for mine, and also coming up with new ways the user would when they come here. But this is the piece I want you to do. So this is the beginnings of a blog post. Okay, so I used this Flexbox in 5 minutes, came up with some new CSS to allow me to do these flex items, right? So that's the first thing. So let me show you that code. So in here, in my index, so I created, and by the way, I ended up taking out the article, the articles is where I'm going to put my blog. And then I left in the header, and that's really where most of my action is going on now. And I do need to re-implement some of my when it logs in, and I'll be doing that before I see you on Tuesday. So the first thing I did is I set up a div flex container, and then I set up 3 divs inside of there. And I just put some default content into it. I put an ID on it, and I put a flex class of 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so that's the first thing. So in my code, I wrote, and this is really our beginnings of objects. Okay, so I did a couple things. I created 3 objects, and each of them were a blog post. Okay, so blog post 1, blog post 2, and blog post 3. And inside I put some properties, right? So title. I'm not sure why, and I apologize for this. When I first showed this on users, I was doing this, and it really was because eventually when we get to JSON, that's the way you have to do it. But for now, so the key value pair, name value pairs, right? So the property names is really what we call this, the property, and then the value. So these are the ones I created. And then I also did one called div ID to target the div. Okay, so I wrote my 3 blog posts. I also put in just a little HTML into my blog post, and then I wrote one function. Okay, and really this is the thing that I see too, that based on where we are with this class and the way I've been teaching it, is that we're not really using functions the way they're intended. So the way they're intended to be used is reused. So what I wrote is I wrote a function called show blog post, and it takes in post. Okay, so now what is that? And down here you see the function, so I'll show you the invocation in a moment. Actually, no, let's talk about that first. So show blog post calls this function with blog post 1, so with this object. Okay, so it passes the object into the function, and in passing it, instead of blog post 1, it calls it post because it's generic, because I want to call it 3 times for my other blog post. And then I define a variable, and I say post.title. So let's see, where did that come, where would that be pointing to? So because I'm passing each blog post into the function, then post.title would be whichever object I'm passing in the title. So post.author, right? So that's where you can make a function that is reused, because when you're passing these values in, or passing in this case the object in, then you can reference that versus referencing the unique object that you have in the global space. Okay, so I did a simple post title plus br, post author br, so I just made some simple things in here as far as the concatenation. Okay, and I want on your blog post to at least have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 properties. So then, nothing new here. Create a variable, document, get element by ID, post, and then div ID. So this is how I can target each of those individual IDs that I created in my HTML, and then I just updated the inner HTML with that content. Okay, so this is, now if you have another process you'd like to use, but I at least want to see you having objects that you then possibly call a function with that object to display. Now the other way you could do this, and this is where you'll see it in the next couple weeks, and I didn't do it here for a reason, but you could have put a function, and we will in the future, right in the object and then call the function in the object. But right now I didn't do that because it would have just been repeating this code on each one. And so I thought, no, this is probably a good time to demonstrate this concept of really what functions should be, which is reusing code whenever possible, because it's one of its huge strengths. Okay, so I hope that, let me come back here. So I'll rewrite that because when I originally wrote it up, I was actually thinking about something a little different. Yeah, so I decided not to use the method. So the method would have been a function on the object. Now, if you want to, you could totally do that, but I will change this to represent that. So what you'll need to do, and hopefully you know this by looking at just the write-up for the homework, is that have your homework also in this new, the new format, the new month format. And then Thursday, we'll probably continue the same example because JavaScript, the weird parts, talks all about functions and objects. All right, have a great weekend.